vlogs. I'm Aaron. Today we're going to continue working on the Nova. We're going to get started on putting the floor in. So I'm just working on getting set up and getting some lighting so I can film and you guys can see what I'm doing. But the first thing we're going to do is pretty dark, but right here along these channels on both sides, that's where the new floor is going to pinch weld to. So I'm going to go ahead and get a flapper wheel out on a 4.5 inch grinder. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this all up really good on both sides, and up in the front and the back and everywhere we're going to be welding. I just want to get it real nice and clean. Back here, these rear supports kind of bent up and stuff from when they pulled the old floor out, so I'll go ahead and hammer and dolly those a little bit, get them straightened up and get those bare metal and clean, and then we'll go along. And I kind of started doing it here just to make sure the punch was going to work in this thicker metal, but I was telling you guys in the other video that I got a punch that punches these out for the spot welds, so I just put a couple in there to check and make sure it was going to work. So I'll come back and punch all that out, clean that metal up so it can weld, and then we can go ahead and set that floor back in there and keep going from there. So I'm going to set up the other camera, get some good light in here so you guys can see what I'm doing, and then we'll get started. Alright, I got my 4.5 inch angle grinder here. I got a flapper disc on it. It's 80 grit. I don't want to take away a whole lot of metal. I just want to clean off paint, rust, and seam sealer and whatever else may be on there. So I got a good clean surface to weld to. Just a little safety tip. You guys may have noticed anytime I'm cutting or grinding or anything like that, I always put my hat on backwards. It's kind of a good practice to not wear a hat or put it on backwards, because one time I had safety glasses on and I had a spark of metal come up and bounce off the bottom of the bill on my hat, come down and get in my eye. Ended up having to go get it pulled out and all that stuff, and just pain in the butt. So just little safety tips, good idea. If you're going to wear a hat, turn it around, or just don't wear one, because something you don't always think about. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. Okay, I got it all ground down where I'm going to need to weld. So I'm going to come back here, and this is all mangled up real bad, so I'm going to go ahead and take my hammer and dolly, and I'm just going to go along and just flatten it out so we got a nice surface to set the new pan on. Alright, that's pretty smooth and flat now, so the floor should sit in there alright. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of finish cleanup, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I got everything ground down and cleaned up as far as I need to. I was telling you guys about the hole punch that I got. This is it here. You just, I'm going to go along both sides of this floor pan and punch holes about every 2 to 3 inches. I mean, I'm not going to measure it out or anything. I just want them to be fairly even to go along the rocker panels in there. So I'm just going to go along with this and punch them. Alright, now I got both sides done. I'm gonna do along the front where it goes up over the trans tunnel and stuff, and punch that out too. And then I don't have to do anything along the back because it doesn't sit anywhere along that back lip that this would do me any good. So in the back, those pieces that I straightened with the hammer and dolly in there, I'm going to have to get the pan back in there, and I'll mark where those are, and then I'll lift it up a little bit with something, and I'll come back with a drill and drill a bunch of holes in there so we can spot that down too. So I'm gonna go ahead and buzz across the top, and then we'll be ready to put the pan back in. Well, I said it was ready to go back in, but I forgot something. It'd be a lot easier to clean all this up while it's out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it up everywhere that I'm gonna weld real quick, and then we'll be ready to set it back in. Okay, I've got my floor pan set back in place. I went ahead and took the 2 bolts that mount the front subframe to the floor pan and bolted them in to go ahead and hold it down. It's sitting in there pretty good where I want it. I got those bolts tight. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and put a couple spot welds here in the front, and I'll kind of massage that where it needs to be. I'll put a couple spot welds over here, and then we're going to move to the back. I'll show you what I'm going to do there, and we'll get the front and the back put in. I already went ahead after I bolted the subframe up. I opened and closed both doors, make sure they close good, check the gaps. So I'm just going to weld a little bit at a time, and I'll keep checking the door gaps just in case the body flexes and stuff, make sure we don't make it to where the doors won't shut or the gaps are huge or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to start putting my tacks up here. I'll go along and make it fit as we go. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, I got the front all tacked in. I'm going to move some stuff around, put you guys in a different position, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started on what I'm going to do with the back so you guys can see what I got going on there. So, move to the back, start tacking it in. Okay, I don't know how good you guys can see it, but I drew a line right along here. That's the outside of the rear subframe flange. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pop holes through this like I did on the exterior and the front. And then we'll just go ahead and make sure this is pushed good against it, and then we'll put a couple spot welds here on both sides, and then I'll go underneath and I'll measure over from the center of this rail to the center of the rail on the other side of the subframe, and then we'll I actually think it goes that way, but either way I'll measure over, figure out where it's at, and then we'll go ahead and drill along there too, and we'll do welds on both sides. So it's up a little bit from the subframe right now, so I can drill through the floor pan and not drill through that brace, so we should be good. Okay, I got the front all tacked in, got the back all tacked in. I went ahead and checked both doors, make sure they're still open and closed nice. They close really good. My gaps look really good all the way around. That's one thing you got to check, being that it's a unibody car. You start cutting structure out and welding and whatnot, and it'll move everything, but everything seems to be real nice so far. So the next step, try to, not really any way I'm going to be able to film this why I do it, but I'll try to show you guys if we have some light. Right down here along the pinch weld, that floor pan sitting right there on the back side of that. So I'm going to go ahead and take self-tapping screws, and every couple inches I'll run a screw through the pinch weld on the car, through the floor pan that we're putting in, and that'll hold it and everything will be pretty solid. And then after I get that done, I can go ahead and I'll jack the car up as high as I can get it, put it on jack stands, and then we can go under there and do our spot welds along the pinch seams on both sides. And then I may do a couple more tacks in the back, but for the most part, the front and the back are already done. So I just have to do the sides. And then we got to hang our exhaust, and then I'll show you what we're doing after that. Okay, I got the car. I got the self-tappers and the rockers from front to back. I got the car jacked up as high as I can get it on jack stand. Should be enough room for me to get under there. I'm gonna do my best to set a camera up so you can see what I'm doing, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get one under there that's on a stand where I can point it somewhere. So I'll see what I can do. I'll try to get it under there. If not, I'll get this welded up and then show you what we got when I get done. Okay, I don't know how well you guys could see that. I tried to put the camera down there and catch some of the welding, the spot welds on the pinch seam. So that's all welded in, with the exception of what I'm about to show you. The whole floor pan is welded back in place. There's 4 holes in the floor pan where there's supposed to be a plug that goes in, so if your car gets flooded or whatever, you can pop the plugs out to drain the water. But the owner of the car doesn't have the plugs, and they don't want the holes in there, so they asked me to just go ahead and weld them up. So that's what I'm going to do. And then over here, if you can see that, on both sides there in the front, the floor was rotted and they cut it out before they brought it to me, and the floor pan doesn't cover it. So I'm going to cut a patch for that for both sides. We got this hole that I was talking about right here. There's another one right here, and they're in the same spots on the other side. So I got 6 holes that I got to patch. So I'll go ahead and I'm just going to take some metal, just any flat metal. I'm going to hold it underneath, trace it out, and then I'll go over on the bandsaw and cut it out just a little bit bigger than the hole that I traced, so it'll sit over the top of it. And then I will just clean the metal up, tack it in there. Same thing with the bigger spots in the front. Just find a piece of metal that'll fit there, tack them in there. Then after we get everything tacked in, I'm going to seam seal everything, and I'll go ahead and film that so you can see what I'm talking about. But other than that, we're making good headway, and we're going to keep going. So I got my metal. I'm holding it underneath the floor pan, and then I'm just going to take this marker and chase it out. You can see there I got my shape on this piece of metal. So now I'll go over on the bandsaw and I'll give myself, I don't know, maybe up to somewhere between 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, and I'll go around the outside of that, because then it'll cover the hole. And I'll just take my body hammer, kind of tap this down where it's flat, and then I'll clean this up and go ahead and tack it in. So I've showed you guys cutting stuff on the bandsaw before, so I'm just going to go do it, and I'll come back and we'll get this cleaned up and we'll tack weld it in. Still an amateur at this. I forgot to turn my microphone on, but basically what I'm explaining here is that this is the seam sealer. You just take the caulk gun, run a nice thick bead along the seams, and then you come back with a paintbrush and spread it out and make sure it covers everything and looks halfway decent. just a little update. The floor is 100% done. Got it all seam sealed all the way around. Got it all brushed out so it looks smooth and decent. All the welds, all the patches, everything. So the only thing I have left to do on this car is put hangers on the exhaust. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out real quick, and once I get done hanging those and tightening the collector flanges up, then I can fire it up. And it's not a seat in it or anything, and I don't want to climb in it tonight anyways because all that seam sealer is gonna be wet for a couple hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and hang the exhaust. I'll try to get underneath there when I'm done and show you guys what it ended up looking like. And then after that, we can fire this thing up, see what it sounds like. So I'll get back with y'all in a little bit. I got the floor all finished up in the Nova. Got the exhaust all finished up, so the Nova's pretty much done. I'm gonna show you guys the exhaust underneath and the best that I can. Let's see what we got here. Got tips coming down, turned out. Got it tucked up pretty good there. So go ahead and take it off the jack stands and move it outside, and I'll do a little short video of it running so you guys can hear it and whatnot, and then send her down the road. All right, we got her all done. Got her back outside. Exhaust sounds pretty good. Pretty sure the kid and grandpa are gonna be happy with it too. He wanted it a little loud. It's still loud, but it ain't too bad. So thank y'all for watching. Please like, subscribe, share. That's gonna do it for this video. So y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.